All right, everyone. I'm Matt Donaghue. Ken,
I'm Kenneth Hamilton.
hey, we are here to talk about financial fitness today. We've got a bunch of different things we've been highlighting in our weekly updates in terms of different aspects of financial fitness. But today is really to just take you through a checklist we have. We've sent it out digitally to people, but this will take you through some of the different areas of the checklist, and hopefully it's food for thought. It's things that maybe it is going to be an issue. What you're seeing is an issue for you. Maybe it isn't. But it at least gives you food for thought in terms of, hmm, maybe my sister should be thinking about this. Maybe my kids should be thinking about this. Maybe my best friend from work should be thinking about this. So keep that in the back of your mind as well as we go through it today. Ken and I will be hosting. You can see our looks like the contact information. Ken's number is actually 6582. Looks like we have a typo there. But you can call or email us if you do have any follow-up questions. And like I said, feel free to drop stuff in the chat as well. So let's jump into it. Ken, what is different in 2026 versus last year? How much has possibly changed for people?
Oh man. Well, for me personally, Ken is getting ready to start T-ball. Wrapped up soccer a couple of months ago. Opinions only getting stronger, his passions even more so. Uh, but again, the world is always shifting from taxes to the market to, well, we won't talk about it, politics, but again, the world's always changing and understanding where you are now and thinking about what's going to happen over the next 12 months. Because think about where you were 12 months ago and how much has changed in that time period. When preparing for this workshop, this reminds me a lot of what I do about a week or 2 weeks before a big road trip or anything like that. Is I just kind of sit back in my recliner and just think, what are all the things that are going to happen? What are all the things that might change and am I prepared for them? Or all the things that could go bump over that trip? And it's the same concept, but here it is in black and white to help some of those meditations. And maybe I should be thinking a little bit closer about some of these items, or it's coming sooner than I thought. But yeah, yeah, that so, but you got to know where you are now. You got to know what are the things you've done in the last 12 months, but what's coming. And hopefully this conversation will help.
Yeah, that's well said. The checklist itself, and if you just scan this real quick, and I'll rattle it off for you real quick. Think about it in terms of what's changed in your family. When I see goals on something like this, I always think about what's changed in your perspective, where maybe your goals have changed a little bit. How's your business changed? Have you made some changes at work? How's your health? How's the health of the people you care about? Is your money situation where you want it to be? And if it is, great. If not, where would you like it to be? And then the future stuff, your estate. Is your estate in the position that, hey, if something happened tomorrow, your stuff is going to get handled the way you want it to be handled? Not if something happens 30 years from now. What about tomorrow if something happens? And then, of course, retirement in the future for a lot of people. If you're not retired, you're 10, 20 years out from retiring. Well, yeah. Are we on track to at least maintain your lifestyle in retirement? If you're already in retirement, you might be thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm creeping up on my mid 70s and now I have these big tax bills coming because I was such a great saver in my 401k at work. So there's a lot of things to consider with this, and all of it does come down to what's your vision for the future. So this financial fitness checkup, here's what we ask you to do with it. Again, you all have digital copies of this. Print it off if you so choose, but print it off and just go through it. It'll take you 10 minutes. And it's basically, if you can kind of see, I know it's not the best picture, but we'll zoom in a little bit here. Very first question, do you expect any changes in your relationship status, marriage, cohabitation, or divorce? Do you see anything on the horizon? Again, expand it out to the people you care about. Hey, my best friend's going through a nasty divorce right now. Oh, has their attorney talked with them about financial aspects of the divorce? Something to consider. Something to consider. So here you can see, here's that first question, right? In much more much more clearly.
Legible.
Yes, thank you. So to me, and this is just me talking through stuff that's top of mind in my personal life right now. Um, that third bullet point, do I have a child who's going to college this year? No. Do I have a child who's probably going to college in the next 5 to 6 years? Yes. So, okay. Do either of my kids or my dependents have any special needs? No. No adult children? Do I have an elderly parent in need of financial or caregiving support? My wife and I just yesterday talked about we potentially might be taking care of not just my mom at some point, but her mom at some point, and maybe her stepmom at some point. And so we are already thinking about, well, what does that mean? Even though they're not there yet. What does it mean? So, from a family standpoint, there's a lot to think about here. And the key is it's what's going on in your life and what's going on in the lives of your friends and your family. Ken, how about goals?
My favorite part is, why are we here? What are we doing? What are we working towards? And how have things changed? Um, I'll tell you this, over the last 2 weeks, I am now super motivated to make sure I go to the LA Olympics this come in 2 years in 2028. So what am I doing to work towards that? But again, what are we working towards? Are there any projects coming up around the house that are needing to get done? Are we needing to move, or is it time to finally purchase that vacation home? We had a record year of the market last year. All of our clients felt it in one way or the other. But now that we are reaching some of those higher heights, is it time to accelerate or pull the trigger on some of those goals? Interest rates are starting to come down. Property values, for better or worse, are kind of levelizing and going down in some areas. This might be the time to make some of those dreams become reality. But what are those items? Do you have a rough budget for them? Let's talk about it and see which when they're going to happen.
All right, business. We were just on a call talking about this. And there's a lot that goes on to running a business. There's a lot. Are you staffed correctly? Are you overpaying staff? Are you underpaying staff? Do you want to add some kind of benefits to retain your top performers? Um, there's a load of questions here if you're running your own business. And it all comes down to, hey, that third bullet point, at some point you will exit your business. It might not be for 30 years, but it might be 3 years from now. What have you done to make sure that if your exit is sudden, that your family will get what they need out of your business? But what are you also doing to make sure that when you do ultimately exit the business, if things go to plan, you're going to get top dollar for the business when you go to sell it and turn it over to the next generation? So there's a lot to think about with business owners. I would say its current state. Have I protected the business, protected myself? Am I doing what I can to retain my talent? And then its future state. Where do I want this to go to? And what do I want to get out of it? One thing all of us who are small business owners that we struggle with is we're really good at our business, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're really good at running our business. It doesn't mean we're necessarily really good at planning for future valuation of our business because we're so caught up in the day to day, right? So, from a planning standpoint, just with business owners, at least my experience, is there's the today side of this equation. The other side of the coin is what do you want to get out of it when you get out? Whether it's unexpected and sudden or a long way down the road at the end of the path, which is what everybody hopes for. Okay, Ken, you want to talk about what if you don't own a business? What if you're working? You're just a working
Yeah.
staff like us, right?
Uh, there are two kinds of events, those that you choose and those that happen to you. And so the ones that we're looking at are the ones that you might get to choose. Are you planning on changing a job? Are you or your spouse planning on retiring? But I'd also ask you, especially if you are an employee of a large or small organization, is what happens if one of these changes are not your choice? What happens if your role becomes eliminated? Are you prepared for that? When was the last time you updated your resume or your LinkedIn? Like just on a semi-serious note, like are we up to date on those items? If we lose one of your income, do we have the liquidity necessary to cover all the bills and expenses? Are you planning on retiring this year or will you be retired? Again, sometimes it's your choice, sometimes it's your employer's choice, or what Matt was talking about medically. What happens if you're forced to retire? Are we ready for those kinds of things? And if we're not concerned about it, that's okay. But if we are concerned about it, another opportunity to have a chat. And then again, be thinking about your kids, thinking about your siblings. Um, have they thought of all these things the way that we've talked about it in the past? Matt?
Boy, Ken, you brought up health. Um, so a lot of you who are on the call, I teach long-term care training to other financial advisors and insurance agents. Um, your healthcare plan while you're working in many cases is through some type of employer plan, or maybe you're going out on the exchange and purchasing something. But when you get past 65, Medicare comes into play, and then also extended care comes into play. And when we think about health, there's the short term, just the acceptance that I cannot control what my body is going to do to me, and I cannot control what my spouse or my kids, what their bodies are going to do to them. And every now and then I'll run into someone who's like, well, I don't have any of the markers for anything. Well, guess what? Neither did Steve Jobs. And his billions of dollars did not help him when he got pancreatic cancer. It still killed him, just like it kills almost everybody who gets pancreatic cancer. He didn't plan for that. He didn't want that to happen, but it did. And so when someone says, it can't happen to me, I'm sorry, but you are literally walking through life with blinders on. You need to acknowledge that your health will change over time. And in some cases, in ways that you really aren't mentally or physically or financially prepared for. And it isn't just health. Maybe it's an accident that causes this issue, right? It can happen a bunch of other ways. So for us, when we're working with our clients and we're thinking about, hey, here's what Medicare is going to cost. Here's what IRMA is. So don't get caught up in spending too much money because it'll blow up your Medicare premiums 2 years later. How do I bridge? I want to retire at 58, but Medicare doesn't kick into 65. How do I bridge that from a healthcare standpoint? My employer just canceled healthcare coverage, right? What does that mean? Right? There's a host of questions there that you or someone you care about is going to be wondering about, and they're probably thinking about today. The one thing I would challenge everybody to consider is when you're doing this when you're thinking about your financial plan, tie your health into your ideas around your estate planning in terms of what you want to have happen once you're gone. And just the reason I say that is the older I get, and a lot of you are already here and have already done this planning, but the older I get, the more I see it in my personal life, the more it's becoming totally evident to me that your estate plan doesn't really begin the day you die. Your estate plan really kicks in the 3 to 5 to 7 years before you die, because none of us knows the manner in which we're going to pass away. And if it does come at the end of a debilitating chronic illness of some kind, that could have destroyed me financially. It could have destroyed my estate and legacy goals financially. And that might be a problem. So when you're thinking about your health, there's a lot to think about there, right? When you're working, it's do you have the right coverage for you and your family? When you're retiring, if you're retiring early, how do I bridge to 65? When you're post 65, you need to really be thinking about, okay, Medicare, taxation, and IRMA. And then on top of that, as you get into your 80s and beyond, okay, have I thought this through? Did I do stuff in my 50s and 60s to set me up so if the last 3 to 5 to 7 years of my life doesn't go the way I want, I'm going to be okay, and my goals are going to be okay. That's really what you want to consider with this. So there's a lot to think about here. I would say as well, the estate planning, the reason I always jump on that in terms of healthcare is this last bullet point. Do you need help completing an advance directive to your healthcare? The legal service we partner with, part of their packaging is the medical directive. And so you want to make sure that your medical directive, your wills, your trusts, all that stuff is current. Because it goes back to like family changes. What if you got a divorce? Do you want your ex to still be the person who is listed in the medical directive to make decisions on your behalf? You might, but you might not. So, a lot to think about there. Sorry, Ken, I went a little long on that.
No. Again, health and time are some of your most important things you have to manage well. If you actually want to go back, I have one nugget I'd like to add. So specifically about medical directives, if you, a family member, a child, if they are single and over the age of 18 and they do not have a medical directive on file, really, really need to encourage that. Uh, we this last year, I'm thinking of a client in particular, one of their college aged kids, their friend, two of them had major accidents over spring break. And the thing is those parents, though the child that had the accident, their parents didn't have any medical authority over the treatment or how or the what, the hows, the whys. Didn't have any authority. Yes, they're the parents of them, but that is a 22-year-old adult for all intents and purposes. And same thing when they're 30 and skiing or 40 or 50. If you are single and you do not have a medical directive, you fall under the state's laws of how treatment is going to be handled, and that no ifs, ands, or buts. You don't have any authority. The one leg up is if you are married, your spouse tacitly has those instructions. So I'd say in the last few years, it's one of those things that I kind of just, yeah, it's nice to have, but it's become very, very important for everybody to have these documents in place. That'll be my last bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. Thanks for drilling in on that.
So if you're on this call, we talk plenty about your money. We're good. We'll move on. No, I'm just kidding. Um, we, these are the things that myself, Matt, and Jason, we're always talking about, thinking about. If you are on this call, we all feel very confident about your plan and how it's going to address these things. But there's the other truth is you may still have some concerns about the debt you're holding or inflation or what's going on in the news cycle. That's okay. Let us know. Share to us why these are concerns. We will talk to you about what our first plan A, plan B, and plan C that we've already built into your plan to address these things. It's important that not just that you have these things in place, but that you're confident about the hows, the whys they work. And this is why we work together. Anything you'd like to add to that, Matt?
Um, we get a lot of people who are like concerned about things they can't control, like inflation. I'm sorry, but you can't control it. You just can't. Can you change your spending? Can you change your spending habits? Can you buy the chicken instead of the steak? Sure, you can do things like that, but you can't control inflation. And a good financial plan will have stress tested you against, hey, what if inflation is higher than what it historically has been? And what if it's higher for an extended period of time? We're running a Social Security workshop tonight. 10 years ago, people used to complain to me about, well, I never get a raise in my Social Security. Yeah, because they tie the raise to the consumer price index for workers. Well, the last few years, you've seen significant raises, but it's doing is keeping up, right? From your money standpoint, when you think about rising costs over time, that is one of the only givens. You cannot control it. You can't control the pace at which it's going to go up. But what you can control is how you're invested and how you're spending. Those are the only two things you can control. And so if you're thinking I'm going to go turtle up in retirement, I'm going to go as conservative as possible. I don't know that's necessarily a good idea, especially if you're thinking about you're going to live more than 10 years after you retire. So just something to think about. Something to think about. Okay, estate planning. I really want to drill in on the third bullet point on estate planning, and that is funding your trust. A lot of people will go and they'll get a trust and a will set up, and they have some retirement accounts and some insurance and some brokerage accounts and other stuff, and they never retitle any of that so it's owned by their trust. They never retitle anything so the trust becomes maybe a contingent beneficiary, assuming one of your beneficiaries passes away before you, things like that. We see that all the time with people. Folks, if you put together a revocable trust, funding it is the second most important step. Funding it means you've taken your insurance policies, your in whatever accounts you can, and now the trust is technically the owner of the policy. The fact that it's revocable means that you, as the trustee, have 100% control over it. It's just when you pass away, guess what? It bypasses probate. It goes exactly where it's supposed to go to in terms of what's written in the trust. If you have a co-trustee, like me and my wife are the co-trustees of our trust, well, guess what? Both of us can make decisions on what's held in the trust. So if something happens to me and I'm laying in a hospital bed and a doctor says, well, Matt has 6 months to live. Well, I know I have a $1 million term insurance policy with a terminal illness rider on it. That means my wife could pull $700,000 out of that policy to pay bills, do what she has to do while I'm laying in that hospital bed. She doesn't need my permission because she's co-trustee of the trust, which owns the policy. So think about your real estate. Think about real estate, investment accounts, bank accounts. Sometimes people do it with their cars even. But make sure you fund the trust. The other thing, the second bullet point from the bottom, your beneficiaries. We recently had a client who passed away. He'd been in a long-term relationship with someone, and she was the 100% beneficiary of everything. And they never got married. They split up about 24 months ago, and he died suddenly February 1, just within the last 3 weeks. And from a planning standpoint, he hadn't updated anything in terms of life insurance, IRAs, any of that stuff. She is still the 100% beneficiary of everything. And even in a state like Texas, which is community property, because they were never married in the first place, none of the state laws kick in that say that you have to retitle the beneficiary pending a divorce. Guess who has 100% right to that money? She does. So I bring that up as a cautionary tale because, and Ken does a great job of working with people and talking with them about this. We can say, hey, you should do this, but you're the person who needs to actually do it. Can we put the form in front of you and help you with the process? Sure. But if you say, oh, okay, yep, I'll get to that. And the next time we bring it up, you say, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. Well, guess what? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So think that through carefully with your estate. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on here as well, right? And just for the context of time, we don't really have time to dig in. But the biggest thing, folks, is set your spouse up for success, set your beneficiaries correctly, and make sure that trust is funded. Make sure. All right, Ken.
Got it.
What about retirement?
So right now is a great time to do an audit of all of your accounts. You have probably been buried in different tax documents and all sorts of letters and quarterly and annual statements. Are there any other accounts out there that maybe you forgot about? Recently, you would have received those documents or statements, but are they still there? Do they need to be consolidated with your other accounts? Do you anticipate needing to take any distributions from your IRAs? And if so, do we have it? Are those dollars in cash or in a conservative place? If you're needing dollars, You really don't want it to be on Liberation Day like we had in 2025, where the market was off double digits. You'd be fine if we prepared for that and those dollars were in cash because cash doesn't move. But if we're anticipating needing some dollars from your accounts, we need to be prepared for it. Another thing to be thinking about is, when was the last time you've done it for those that are still working? When was the last time you've done a review of all the benefits that your employer's offering? Um, Recently, with the tax change, there are provisions that allow even more catch-up provisions within your 401k, 403b, or 457. Does it make sense to take advantage of them? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. But again, we need to be aware of it so we're putting you in the best possible situation. Um, are we also getting to the point of required minimum distributions? If so, let's talk about it. If not, let's talk about it. R&Ds are R&Ds are the things that will take a great retirement and make it good. You'll still be fine, I'll be honest, but again, it could really increase your out-of-pocket taxes in an unnecessary way. With planning, with time, it can be fixed. Anything you'd like to add, Matt?
Um, guys, do that planning now for real. If you're considering Roth conversions, if you're considering contributing to Roths, if you're still working, we are in the lowest income tax environment at the federal level since the 1920s. It won't be there forever. The BBB that was passed last year, um, extended. That's how I'm thinking about it. Extended the 2016 Tax Cut and Job Act, and there's not one tax policy analyst out there who thinks that that bill is going to last more than 5 or 6 years. So take advantage of the low tax environment now, and like Ken's saying, move, reposition, strategically do these things now. Take advantage of the low tax environment because there's usually a tax bill associated with the making those moves so that later on you don't get crushed with taxes in retirement or
Yeah,
crushed once the RMD has to start coming out if you're already retired. So
yeah.
just do
Not
it when
to
you can.
not to not to derail the conversation. It's probably a whole other webinar, but with SCOTUS's decision about the tariffs, have there been any talks about what that might look like on paying back any of those tariffs or anything else? I mean,
It's a
I
hot
think I've heard
mess.
both.
Yeah, it's a hot
I
mess
mean,
right now. So
but I guess nevertheless, is while it is a hot mess, it's going to get settled one way or the other, and there's going to be tax ramifications. So, to Matt's point, while the current BBB is set and scheduled, I wouldn't say that it's cured concrete. Like it's still probably pretty moldable in the near future because it might need to be. But we'll find out, like
yeah,
everybody else.
yeah. It's kind of interesting how these decks work out sometimes because the last thing I talked about was reorganize everything, when your life changes and make sure your estate's funded or your trust is funded. And the first bullet point on your future is, do you need help getting financially organized? I'm kind of laughing, but I do mean it seriously. If you do need help, t talk to us. We will never judge you for asking for help. Never. That's what we're here for. And so if you feel like this is overwhelming for me, and you feel hopefully you feel comfortable with me, Ken, and or Jason to say that, because the last thing we want to do is make you feel like you got to figure this stuff out on your own, right? So if you need help getting financially organized, please say so. You can see some more specific things on this slide. The second bullet point gets into emergency funds. And, while this slide says 6 months, there's no real standard for emergency funds. Some people say 90 days. Some people, like me, would prefer to have a year, although it just never seems to happen. And a lot of people are somewhere in between. But one of the biggest things you can do if you're, let's say this is the year you're really getting serious about your financial plan, really one of the first things you need to do is make sure that that emergency fund is there and you are only touching it for emergencies. And I hate to say this, but taking your grandkids to the zoo is not an emergency. Taking them to Disney is not an emergency. An emergency fund is an emergency fund where I need new HVAC. I need a new roof. I have a big copay I have to pay. I got a big tax bill I got to pay. That's what an emergency fund is for. So, if you're going to get serious about it, just keep it in mind that that emergency fund is for emergencies. The other thing, these last four items are all future looking or forward looking. So, midterm goals, medium term goals, the next 3 to 5 to 7 years. What do you want to do? Right? What's coming up on the horizon for you? My wife and I, hey, 5 years from now, we got a kid starting college. We got another kid who's going to be 15 at that time and just starting driving. Okay, we're doing the planning. We're doing the planning now for that. Thinking about when you should apply for Social Security. Just you've heard me say this if you've seen me talk about Social Security or if you've met with me about it. Don't ever make that decision in a bubble, right? Don't just go, oh, I want the $2,000 a month now, so I'm going to take it. What's the long-term impact of that decision? Did you have us at least show you how your tax bill changes when you do that? We have a couple people from California on today's call. California has a state income tax. California does not tax your Social Security benefits, though. Would you rather have more tax-free income at the state level or less tax-free income at the state level? Do you care? Not saying there's a right answer. It's just those are the questions you need to be asking yourself before you make that decision. We can help with that. Do you feel stressed? This goes right back to the first point. If you're stressed out about this stuff, have a conversation. Have a conversation. And then what's your bucket list? Folks, especially for those of you who are getting ready to retire, I was talking with Jason about this morning. The whole idea of, oh my God, I am scared to death of retiring. That is me in a nutshell. I have no problem being candid about that because I don't know what I'll do with myself. Do I have things I want to do? Sure. But I am not the guy who's going to go golfing 4 times a day. That's not me, right? So what am I going to do? And Jason brought up a great point. What's your bucket list? And your bucket list, folks, doesn't have to be a giant trip to Europe or something like that. Your bucket list could be, hey, I got really involved with my church for the first time. I've been going to that church for 40 years and I'm finally retired. Now I can finally do some of the things there that I've always wanted to do. And maybe you're not sure how to get involved, or maybe you're thinking they're not going to want you because you only ever showed up once a week or whatever. Just ask. Just ask. Okay. Ken, want to start taking us home?
Yeah. What changed in 2025? What changed for you over the last 5 years? What do you want to talk about in 2026? What do you want to be ready for in the next 5 years? We might have been working towards particular goals, paying this off, helping kids with college, that trip, whatever it may be. Maybe there are some new ones. Myself, Matt, and Jason, I know we do great work, but that quality of work is only as good as well as the information we have. So, as you know, things change. My goodness, they change. Please just keep us informed as they go, and we will be able to make sure we're always headed north. And then anytime that you feel pressure, stress, confusion, this is what we're here for. Please, please, please reach out to us. Let us know what your most pressing issue is. Sometimes it comes up to you during our meeting and we jot that down. Maybe it's on a walk. Maybe it's at 2 a.m. Whenever you know when that is, send it to us, please. In the chat, I put each of our links for us to schedule a quick call to catch up. One, how is it already March? I think it's July in my heart, as it feels like it's July. It's
I know,
going so
right?
quick.
I know.
But here we are. Let's just stay in touch.
Yeah. And so somebody who's on the call emailed me. So a lot of you who work with me know I'm really into music. You can see the guitar and all that stuff. And yes, Metallica did announce today that they have their Sphere residency booked for the fall. Found out this morning about 9:30 a.m. I have, because I'm a member of their fan club, I have an 11 a.m. window or 2 hour window starting at 11 a.m. on Friday to buy advance tickets for it before they hit the general market and explode in price. And my wife is already working the phones to get her mother to come into town to watch our kids and to tell her boss she's going to be gone for 3 days because Matt's making me go see Metallica for the first time. So, but thank you for emailing me, Steve. Yes, I am all over it. I am all over it. Um, in all seriousness, though, that's a bucket list thing, right? I mean, it is. And whatever your bucket list is, hey, book a time. Let's, like Ken said, let's talk about what you want to do. And you heard me say a bunch. We're not here to value judge anything. We're here to say, hey, if that's important to you, let's figure out a way to make it happen financially. And we'll work together to help you get there. So again, thank you, everyone. Feel free to reach out. Thank you, Ken, for dropping our contact info in the chat. It doesn't look like we have any outstanding questions. I'm going to stop recording, but I will keep the room open for another couple minutes. But otherwise, thank you again, everyone,
Yeah.
for attending, and we will talk to you soon.